Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMZ diwan-e-ghalib-meri-zubaani. To all our returning viewers, we are happy you could join us again. And for the new viewers, we are delighted you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Now today's episode is part of the DGMZ Miniseries we are currently running. The miniseries is dedicated to the immortal love story of Layla and Majnun. As part of this mini-series, we are exploring and discovering the story of Layla and Majnun via paintings, Urdu Sher or Shairi, and narrating it through a book. There's a dedicated playlist for this mini-series where all the episodes with narration, paintings, and Urdu Sher or Shairi are available for easy access. Now today's episode sees us picking the story from chapter 44 onwards. But before we get into the narration, DGMZ would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate Suluk Press Publishing House for allowing us to narrate this story from their publication titled The Story of Layla and Majnun Nizami, translated from the Persian and edited by Rudolph Gelpke. English version in collaboration with E. Matin and G. Hill. Final chapter translated from the Persian by Pirzia Inayat Khan and Omid Safi. The description section of this episode has the link to this book for viewers who want to own a copy. Along with that, we have also posted links to the DGMZ Ghazal episodes where Ghalib mentions or quotes Layla Majnun. So, let's get into the narration for today. Like I said, we are going to narrate from chapter 44 onwards. Start of narration. The story of Layla and Majnun. Chapter 44. Once more, that royal horseman, the sun, galloped into the arena where the wheel of heaven turns. His rivals, the stars, went pale and retreated towards the rim of the horizon in the west. The shining rays of the conqueror made the crystal bowl of the night scintillate until the morning lifted it high and then broke it, so that the wine ran out, coloring the firmament purple from one end to the other. Thus day broke. Majnu was sitting far from all human company, beating out on the drum of his loneliness, kasida after kasida of his love songs. Whether day or night mattered not to him. In his wilderness, no one counted the hours. He did not know about the happenings in the world of men, great or small, not even that his mother had since left, departing farther than he himself had gone. He might never have learned it had not his uncle, bringing food and clothes, visited him for the third time to tell him. Salim lifted his face up to the sun and lamented. In truth, your mother saw enough unhappiness in the light of her days. Now, far from you, she has closed her eyes. Tying her bundle, she has said farewell to the house of the world and has gone. You were missing when she left, but she was longing for you as your father before her. In deep distress, Majnu battered his face with his fists. He wailed like a bewitched harp and struck the ground like glass hitting a stone. Then he raced away until he reached the place where his mother now lay beside his father. He buried his face in the earth where the dead rest, waiting to be questioned by angels before the last judgment. His lament rose to the sky, but when has the wailing of man ever brought back the dead? Those who heard him were the living. His family and the men of his tribe came rushing, one after the other. Looking at Majnun, worn with misery and bored by despair, they had to commiserate not only with his parents, but also with himself, whether they liked it or not. "We salute you," they said. "Your grief is ours, and our home is yours. Stay with us. Do not leave again." Whatever they said, Majnun's answer was but a moan. No, even now he was only a guest. Nothing, no one could hold him. His home was here no longer. His friends had become strangers. He tore himself away from their hands, his eyes leaping ahead of his steps into the mountains where only his animals awaited him. There was space for his heart to suffer from one rim of the sky to the other. For one brief moment, he had hit the trail of men like a flash of lightning. Then he vanished again like a cloud driven by the wind. What is human life after all? Whether it endures for a brief spell or longer, even if it could last 1,000 years, take it as a breath of air merging into eternity. From the beginning, life bears death's signature. They are brothers in the secret play of their eyes. For how long then do you want to deceive yourself? For how long will you refuse to see yourself as you are and as you will be? Each grain of sand takes its own length and breadth as the measure of the world. Yet, beside a mountain range, it is as nothing. You yourself are the grain of sand. You are your own prisoner. Break your cage. Break free from yourself, free from humanity. Learn that what you thought was real is not so in reality. Follow Nizami. Burn but your own treasure like a candle. Then the world, your sovereign, will become your slave. The story of Layla and Majnun, chapter 45. Majnun's letter did not soothe Layla's grief. On the contrary, it increased her suffering and the sadness of her days. Majnun certainly only wanted to torture himself with his bitter laments and reproaches. But his heart knew the truth, and at the end of his letter he admitted, "Forgive, I suspected you, although I knew that no one had conquered your fortress." Layla understood her beloved and felt hurt only because he hurt himself so deeply. He, in his wilderness, could be as free and as mad as he liked. She had always been a prisoner, first her father's, then her husband's. A prisoner, courted, loved, and spoiled. But did that ease her fate? Her husband obeyed, never touching her, but he lived in hope and laid siege to her with his tenderness, enclosing her in the walled city of his love. In jealous loyalty, he guarded the gate which he was not allowed to enter. But one night, which was as black as a move, Layla managed to escape from the tent. She sensed that this was not an ordinary night. Where was she to go? She did not know. In the darkness, she blindly followed a voice in her heart, which led her to the edge of a palm grove, where two paths crossed. The same place where she had once met the old horseman who had taken her letter to Majnun. Who knows, suggested the voice. Perhaps, as you want it so badly, you will again receive word from him here. And so it was. When she reached the crossroads, she suddenly perceived a shadow right in front, if her. Like hers, his steps seemed to be guided in the darkness by the flaming torch of his heart. She knew at once that it was the old man. Who was he? Perhaps Khizr, God's messenger himself. Layla did not ask, and as she had felt in her soul that she would meet him here, she was hardly surprised. She addressed him without hesitation. What news do you bring about the course of heaven? What does he do, my vile love, in his wilderness? Of whom does he dream? What does he say? The old man did not seem surprised either, not by Layla, nor by her words. Gently, he replied, without you and your light, my moon, he about whom you inquire is like Joseph, the youth at the bottom of the pit. His soul is like the ocean at night, whipped up by the gale under a moonless sky. Like a herald, he roams through mountains and valleys, shouting at every step, and what he shouts is Layla, and what he seeks is Layla. Good or bad, he no longer knows himself. He is on his way to nowhere, for he has no goal left but Layla. When the girl heard this, she became a reed, sounding the melody of lost love. Her narcissus eyes overflowing with tears, she said, it is I who have burnt my lover's heart and brought this fate upon him. How I wish that I could be with him in his adversity. But our sufferings are not alike. It is I, not he, who is caught like Joseph in the pit. Majnu is free, walking over the mountain peaks where I cannot follow him out of my valley. Yet I will see him. With these words, Layla loosened some jewels from her earrings, kissed them, and handed them to the old man with these words, accept these as a present. Go, fetch Majnun and bring him here. Then arrange a secret meeting in this garden. I only want to see him, to look at him, one single glance into the light. How else can I know how he fares? How deep is his loyalty? And perhaps, who knows, he will recite a few of his lines for me, 2 or 3 only, which no one else has yet heard. Perhaps, when I listen to them, the tangled skein in my soul will be unraveled. When he heard Lala's words, the old man carefully tied the pierced pearls she had given him into his sash. Then he took his leave of the matchless pearl whom no one had yet pierced. He rode through the night and the desert while Lala's fears and hopes rode invisible beside him. Like a mariner sailing from island to island, he traveled from oasis to oasis. But none of the Bedouin could put him on the track. Fate alone led him. He finally found the king of the wilderness at the foot of a mountain, surrounded by his animals, and as sad as a treasurer whose precious jewels are in the hands of a stranger. Majnu was happy when he recognized the old man. Jumping up, he sharply ordered his growling and snarling companions to keep their peace. They calmed down. The messenger entered their circle and stopped in front of Majnu. Greeting him with the reverence due to a ruler, he bent down to the ground, invoked the grace of heaven on Majnu, and spoke thus: Ruling in the realm of love, may your life endure as long as love itself. I am sent by Layla, whose beauty is one of the wonders of the world. She values her bond with you higher than her life. How long is it since she has seen your face or heard your voice? She wishes to see you so that I can look into eye, if only for the passing of a breath. And you, would it not also make you happy to see her? Could you not once break the fetters of separation, recite verses which would bring peace to her heart, relive what has become a memory, reawaken what belongs to the past? Look, I know of a garden where palm trees, as dense as a forest, will protect you from prying eyes. There will be nothing above but the wheeling expanse of the sky, nothing beneath but a carpet of living green. Come, spring awaits you there, and the key of your fate. With these words, the old man produced a garment from his bag, and with words of blessing, put it on Majnu, who was almost numbed by what he heard. Was it really possible then to steal a glance at paradise by living on earth? Could a small particle of eternity break the chain of ours? How could this old man understand? What did people beyond the wilderness know about Majnu? Their happiness was not his. There was fulfillment for their wishes, but not for his longing. Yet How could Majnu resist what was offered to him? How could he ignore the call of his beloved? When the old man had dressed him fittingly for a journey into the world of men, they departed, followed, of course, by the caravan of animals, who would not desert their Shah wherever he went. The nearer they approached Layla's abode, the more Majnu trembled in feverish desire. Impatience drove him on. It was as if a wellspring filled with the water of life was beckoning him from the horizon, as if the wind was even now wafting the scent of his beloved, as if he was dying of thirst while the waves of the Euphrates were receding from him. But for once, stubborn fate proved favorable to the lovers. One evening, Majnu and his guide safely reached the palm grove where the animals were to camp and await their master's return. In the falling dusk, Majnu himself went into the heart of the garden and sat down under a palm tree to rest, while the old man left to give the pre-arranged signal to Layla. The fairy girl, hidden in her tent, spied the old man at once from behind the curtain where she had waited so long, torn between fear, doubt, and hope, though that was a small price to pay for the chance of seeing the beloved after years of separation. Wrapped in her veil and protected by the growing darkness, Layla rushed to the garden, her soul flying ahead of her feet. She saw Majnu, but stopped before reaching the palm tree against which he was leaning. Her knees trembled and her feet seemed rooted in the earth beneath them. Only 10 paces separated her from her beloved, but he was enveloped by a magic circle which she must not break. Turning to the old man at her side, she said, "Noble sir, so far I am allowed to go, but no farther. Even now I am like a burning candle. If I approach the fire, I shall be consumed. Nearness brings disaster. Lovers must shun it. Better to be ill than afterwards to be ashamed of the cure. Why ask for more?" Even Majnu, he, the ideal lover, does not ask for more. Go to him. Ask him to recite some verses to me. Let him speak. I shall be ear. Let him be the cupbearer. I shall drink the wine. The old man went, but when he approached the quiet figure under the palm tree, he saw that Majnu's head had sunk. He had fainted. Moved by pity and fear, the old man took the youth's head in his lap, showering the pallid face with tears. When Majnu came to, he drew himself up, and as his eyes found their way to Layla, the verses she had asked for began to flow from his lips. End of narration. So today we covered 2 chapters, chapter 44 and 45. Now, in chapter 44, let's do a brief impression before we close the episode for both the chapters. So, in chapter 44, we see how Majnu once again receives the news of one of his parents' death. He had already been dealt a very hard blow when his father died, and now Salim, his uncle, comes and tells him about his mother's death. Just both these losses, it just seems they are enhancing the loneliness that Majnu feels, which to begin with was huge. And now, without his mother and father, that loneliness just keeps getting worse and worse. And I think in chapter 44, I love the lines where Nizami gives great advice, right? Where he compares each of us as a grain of sand, right? He writes, each grain of sand takes its own length and breadth as the measure of the world. Yet, beside a mountain range, it is as nothing. You yourself are the grain of sand. You are your own prisoner. Break your cage, break free from yourself, free from humanity. Learn that what you thought was real is not so in reality. Follow Nizami. Burn but your own treasure. Beautiful line, right? Burn but your own treasure like a candle. Then the world, your sovereign, will become your slave. Beautiful lines. Very, very poetic, of course, very philosophical, and yes, worth quoting. And then, of course, chapter 45. So many events in just one chapter. Lala, for the first time, breaking free from her tent, for the first time, making a voluntary decision to meet Majnu actually face to face. And of course, all this triggered by Majnu's letter to her and arranging the meeting with Majnu. But then, once again, um, after all the preparation and the planning and the long journey which Majnu makes to the palm grove where they are meeting, how Lala stops herself 10 paces away, just terrified by the possibilities of her and Majnu coming any closer. She identifies Majnu as the all consuming fire and herself as a candle, which would just lose herself in that fire. Sorry. So, in the consecutive episodes, we will see how this meeting pans, but for now, Majnu totally exhausted by the long journey he has made to meet Layla, has fainted, and Layla is standing afar from him. And once Majnu regains consciousness and lays his eyes on Layla, his poetry starts flowing from his mouth. So that's where we leave the story today. We will pick it up in the next episode. If you like the narration and the story and the impression from today, do let us know via comments and feedback. If you know someone who would enjoy this story, we encourage you to share it via your social media, be it YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. And for all the new viewers who tuned in for the first time today, a strong recommendation to you that please access the episode titled Introduction to DGMZ. That will give you a good insight into the motivation and inspiration behind this podcast. The homepage of the channel has a lot of playlists. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, one of the playlists is dedicated to this mini series, and then there are other playlists dedicated to diwan-e-ghalib, Ghazal episodes, and other topics. Do surf through the playlist and access the episodes which pique your interest. I am now going to go ahead and close this episode for today. I'm sending a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers, and Thanks for watching.